Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this Coffee and Clouds minicast. My name is Alan Falcon. I'm the CEO and Pragmatic Evangelist here at Cumulus Global, and I want to thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your busy day and week to join us here this afternoon. Today's topic is identity, the dark web, and your business. And a couple of housekeeping things before we jump right into it. As with all of our webcasts, this session is being recorded and will be posted on the website. For those of you registered, or as well as those attending, we'll send you a note to let you know when that is available. And we'll get that out to you. Feel free to share with friends and acquaintances who you think might benefit from the information we're providing here today. These sessions are shorter than our monthly third Tuesday at 3 webcasts, so we expect to run about 15-20 minutes, and we'll open it up for Q&A. If at any point in time during the session you do have a question, along the top or right-hand side of your screen, there's some icons. Click on the one for the questions window. That's the best way to reach me. It lets me know you've asked a question, lets me track who's asking the questions, and check off to make sure I've answered all the questions before we wrap up here today. So again, thanks for joining us, and let's dive right in. Okay, when we talk about identity, the dark web, and your business, we're really starting with what most companies use to identify their employees on their internal systems, which is usually an employee name at your domain. It's your email address, right? We use this to get into Office 365. If you're using Office 365 or Active Directory is your identity management system. It's the form of identity for G Suite and Google Cloud Platform. It's how you log into Amazon services. It's how you log in to your local network behind the scenes. Even if you use a human name like Alan Falcon to log into your Windows machine, behind the scenes, it's using that email address is the core to your identity. And with that identity in your business systems, there are passwords. And here's where things get tricky, and why we say your identity, and we get to the dark web and how it affects your company. So you have an employee at yourcompany.com, and we tend to use our work identity for other services. Most of the time, these are work related, and I do this myself, right? My work identity is used for my Lyft account because most of the time I'm using Lyft, I'm traveling on business, right? So it's that email address. My work identity is connected to Staples and the company we use to order coffee for our break room. And my LinkedIn account uses my work identity. And we've got other services as well. And maybe you're using a number of cloud tools or a number of outside services. Those can be official or unofficial. They can be work-specific or work-related. So, for example, you may have employees who are using, who have created a personal Dropbox account to share files with a customer or with a prospective customer who's using their work ID to set up that account, right? And even if it's shadow IT, they're still using the company identity, if you will. You say, well, okay, that makes sense. It's easy to remember. If it's work-related, I use my work email. That's all in well and good. What I need to point out is every company whose icon is on this screen and dozens more have had data breaches over the last few years, right? And so I can say, okay, so Staples had a data breach, or Uber had 600,000 names in their breach. Dropbox, the consumer version, had a breach about 18 months ago. Verizon Wireless, Slack had one in the spring of this year. All of those compromising user identities, usernames, your business email address for that employee, and that employee's password. And say, okay, that's a risk, but why would these breaches affect my business? And what does the dark web have to do with it? Well, here's how it affects your business. 40% of adults use the same or similar passwords across multiple accounts and services, which means if you had an employee whose identity was breached from Slack, chances are there's a good chance that employee is using the same or a similar enough password that it's easy to guess the password for LinkedIn, for your internal systems, for accessing your VPN, for accessing their Uber account, for a number of other things. That could be either personal accounts that they use for business, personal tools they're using for business, or tools that you provide. It creates a huge hole in your security infrastructure because the easiest way to circumvent your security that you put in place is to actually log in as one of your users, right? And so this is where the risk comes, and this is how it affects your business. Okay, so when we talk about the dark web, we're really talking about the fact that breaches from external services and systems give cyber criminals actual and similar passwords to multiple services, including your business systems and the tools your employees use every day, right? So if you've got employees, whose LinkedIn password was compromised or their Slack password is compromised, and they're using that same password to access Office 365 or G Suite, the cyber criminals have access to that employee, all the data that employee has access to in your cloud, in your productivity suite. But if the employee's also using that same username and password for their LinkedIn account, they have access to that. If they're using it for Uber, they can book rides, log in, probably charge to their company credit card. There's a whole slew of sort of chain reaction for how those become available. And the dark web comes in because it's the cyber criminals on dark web websites who actually say, hey, I've got this identity and it's for sale. And we'll take a look at what that looks like in a minute. So how do we prevent this from happening? I can't stress this enough that it starts with a data protection strategy, and we love the acronym CPR: communicate, prevent, and recover. So communication means you have to educate and train your employees, right? And set up, policies and procedures around it. So, for example, let employees know that they're supposed to use or they should be using dissimilar passwords for for other tools that they might use for work, where their business email address, yourcompany.com email address, is their username for that service, right? Either that, or you can also require them to go through a single sign-on service, where you have multi-factor authentication, and once they log in, they have access to all the services they're supposed to use, right? But employees should understand the risks of poor password choice and using similar or identical passwords across multiple systems. And you want the policies and procedures in place to guide those as well. And occasionally you're going to honeypot test. And honeypot testing really is more about phishing and how people respond, but you want that as part of your repertoire. The next is prevention. In our last Third Tuesday at 3 webcast, we got into this in a lot more detail, but you can deploy technologies and you should have multiple layers of protection, right? So today we're talking specifically about identity, and we're going to take a look at and show you dark web ID that lets you know if and when identities in your company have been compromised. And it's really one piece of multi-layer protection. So you should be scanning your network for advanced persistent threats. You should have advanced threat protection of some form, checking email. Website activity should be monitored and filtered for malware that's downloading or even auto-downloading behind images and videos from compromised trusted websites. Ideally, your advanced threat protection has the newest technologies that look at the context of what's being sent and can identify phishing, angle phishing, and spear phishing attacks and block those so there's no CEO spoofing or internal email address spoofing. But when it comes to identity and tracking whether or not it's been compromised and if there's a risk there and identifying whose identities for your business might be compromised, dark web ID is the tool we offer. And then the third piece is recover from a strategy standpoint. It realizes there is no perfect prevention. So you should have continuity and recovery systems in place with that focus on a quick return to normal operations. And again, dark web ID can help you because if you know when there's a breach, you know when you have recovery or when there's additional employee training necessary, or even just proactively changing passwords and scanning specific systems to make sure that you don't have a broader compromise or a broader data breach in your environment. So with that, I'm going to switch over to another screen, and we'll take a quick look at dark web ID. And what I'm going to do here is I've just picked a well-known email domain, and this is what we call a live data search. And I'm going to run it, and you can see right now that if we look at the results, we've got a couple of things going on. And of course, Best Buy has, tens of thousands of employees around the world. it's a retail operation, but I can look here and you can see that, as recently as the 20th and 22nd of February, they've, Dark Web ID has identified compromises and when they showed up. And what we see here in the results is, this individual, Daniel Page at bestbuy.com, this password hit actually shows the first 4 letters of his password as Kara.helper. Coops is the first 4 letters of a 6-letter password she's using. That's different. That means the password's available in clear text. The source was an ID theft forum. The origination of where it came from, what type of breach led to that identity being on an ID theft forum or a website that might have been involved, aren't disclosed because they're not definitively known. And this system that we use only lets you know if it's a definitive trace back to a specific breach. And we've had instances, for example, when we scan our own domain and look back in time, hey, I know that there's an association in Massachusetts around nonprofits that in February of 2014, I believe, had a website breach. And one of my identities was compromised there because this system was able to actually identify and trace back the source. Now, when you see a password hit that doesn't have clear text, it just means it's encrypted, which means someone is selling this ID, which also means they've probably validated that they can get into either a Best Buy system or other web systems with that username and password. And so you can see here that this report right now is only showing 100 of the most recent 1,000 records, and that goes back a little bit more than a year. And you can see that there are oftentimes dates where there are many breaches, indicating that there might be a leak in the system or something happening in one of their locations. But they have a pretty consistent run of breaches over time, individual or multiple breaches. And so there's an example here. Now, what we do with Dark Web ID, this live search is really cool because it gives you the oh no, fear, uncertainty, and doubt moment, right? And it shows, what does my domain look like? If you want us to do one of these live data searches for you, you can contact us after the webcast. We're happy to do it and share the results with you. What this service also does, in addition to a one-time scan, we can actually put you in the system and monitor you on an ongoing basis so that you are automatically alerted of any new breach that occurs. So you get both the historical information, so you know where to focus your training efforts and your communication efforts with your employees and current employees at least. And you can see how frequently you have these types of breaches and where they might be coming from. At the same time, we can set up the monitoring that will alert you over time when new breaches occur. And we can cover multiple email domains. If your business uses multiple domains and has multiple email addresses, we can cover multiple domains under your business. And we can also then protect if you have key executives or key personnel who you might want to offer this service or offer them protection for personal email addresses. We have a limited ability to add personal email addresses under your company plan. We can add more, for small fee if need be. And so for a relatively low fee, we can monitor and let you know when you have identities compromised on the dark web. So what we're going to offer for those of you here on today's webcast, as we sort of discuss the risk of identity, company identity and email compromise, and how that even external breaches can impact your business. We've got 2 offers, and there's a website here, linked to on our website. We'll get to that in a minute. One, we're happy to do a free one-time scan for you and send you the 100 most recent breaches. And as much information as we can pull about that as a courtesy for you attending this webcast or watching the recording. The other thing is if you have attended this webcast, regardless of when it was scheduled or you're watching the recording and you'd like to sign up for the continuous monitoring, we're happy to provide you a demo, a quote, and we'll waive the setup fee to get you up and running more quickly and more efficiently. And so again, the dark web right now, there's an active market for user identities. The fact that Your employees definitely use your work email addresses, their work email addresses to log into other systems. And in nearly 50% of the cases, they're using the same password or a similar password, which makes password guessing or brute force attacks easy to compromise. You're getting effectively cross-compromise and cross-contamination from those user identities, and those pose a real risk to your business that could result in data loss, as well as, depending on your business and the regulations you fall under, you could find yourself with legal or even, in some states, criminal liability for those types of breaches. And so what I'd like to do is invite folks to contact us, info@cumulusglobal.com. Let us know if you'd like us to do the free real-time scan, or if you're interested in learning a bit more about the monitoring, or you can contact me directly. My contact information is up there. I will tell you that you're best off reaching me by email rather than phone. I'm much better about responding to emails than I am to phone. And what I do want to do is give you just a shot to learn more information. You can go to our website. You can search for Dark Web ID, or it's under the products link under data protection and security. You come to the page. There is a great overview video about the product. You can also, and some overview information, and you can fill out the info, and we're happy either for single scan and or monitoring service to provide you more information, schedule a demo, a trial, or to get you a quote for the service itself. So feel free to visit the website at any time, or send us an email if you're interested in learning more. At this point, I do want to open it up to Q&A. If you have any questions about identity management, the dark web, the impact on your business, feel free to open that questions window using the icon across the top or right-hand side of the screen. And for those who are watching this, since this is being recorded, it'll be on a website. If you're watching this as a recording and you've got a question, info@cumulusglobal.com or afalcon@cumulusglobal.com. Feel free to send your question in. Just give me a good subject message so I know what you're referring to with this webcast or dark web or identity management, and we'll definitely get back to you, answer your questions, and if need be, schedule a call to discuss your challenges, your needs, your questions more directly one-on-one. Okay, as it looks like there are no active questions at this point, I want to thank everyone for joining us here today for our Coffee and Clouds minicast, Identity, the Dark Web, and Your Business. As a thank you for joining us in the live session, or if you're watching this as a recording on the website, we'll look at your selection if you made one as far as Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, and we'll get that thank you note and a gift card out to you really soon. So thanks again for joining us. Have a great day, and we'll see you at our next web or live event.